Hey Level 1, this video is going to help you guys to learn different techniques of using the Micron Pigma pens on your art project. So I'm going to put this aside. I'll come back to this and do a little demonstration on that for you guys. So I was going to take just a sheet of paper and show you a couple of things. So the patterns or textures that you guys are going to be selecting from are from your page on Schoology that was attached to your instructions. Now you can use this and that would be great. You can actually go with this, and if you wanted to go beyond this, if there's something on here that that you feel like should be altered, or you feel like there may be something else that you found online that you'd like to use as a texture or a value shade on your project, you certainly can, but just know you have to choose a minimum of 2 on your project. So you guys have your Micron Pigma pens, and if you look, it goes from the 01, the 03, and the 05, which this is the thickest there. So your pens, one thing to know when you hold your pens, and this just depends on the type of mark making that you want to make. So let me try to adjust this thing. Maybe y'all can see this. So the darker the line, the more you're going to hold it up vertically. Now, if you want a line that's kind of wispy, you can hold your pen more at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to kind of zoom out to let y'all see my hand here. So the lighter the mark, the more it's going to be held like at an angle. Okay, and the darker mark is going to be held more like at almost like a 90-degree angle when you guys are working. So there's several different textures that you guys could play around with when y'all are working, and I may go back and forth with what I'm doing, but I do want to show you some of the things that I did, and then I'll do a little demonstration on the mark making and stuff like that. So with this in particular, what you can probably see is I've got some up and down. This is called a hatching line. So the hatching lines, it's similar to this mark making here. So cross hatch would be right here. Hatching, you're just making lines in a row to create value, and you can kind of see this is kind of similar in nature to that. I guess that's kind of similar in nature to that. So I did hatching lines for this, and the one thing that you do need to do when you first start with your value, and I don't know if y'all can see this, but I did take this, and you're going to outline each of your sections with your pen when you work with it. Now this pen tip that I'm working with is the smallest, the 01. What I would recommend you try to do just to get a handle on things is to start with the 01, and then, you know, if you need to progress to a heavier, darker size line, you certainly can, but I'm just going up and down, and I'm just making my hatching lines, and I'm not really pressing down all that hard as I go. One thing that I would tell you guys to do is to practice using these pens before you actually begin on the project. So just on a scratch sheet of paper. Of course, this is pointillism. We've done this before. So my 2 textures that I'm using here are those hatching lines as well as the pointillism. So we're going to move over to the asymmetrical balance here, and as you can see, I've got cross hatching, I've got a little bit of hatching right here, I've got pointillism right here, and I've got this range of thick lines right here. So like I said, when I drew this out, I ended up, after I went over it in graphite, I ended up just outlining everything that I ended up doing with that. So I just thought it would be good to go through this with you guys and try to finish this out with y'all. So this is the 01, and I'm just I'm not like going like that. I'm just kind of touching on this and making little dots as I go for the pointillism here. Try to find ways to break up your value as you go. You know, I've got this thick line, I've got the cross lines, and I've got the pointillism here. I'm just going to go through this. You can see how I'm outlining this little section, and I'm just hatching. I'm just going up and down with my lines, and I'm filling that in. I can take this if I wanted to do, and I don't know if y'all can even see what I'm doing, but I could go through this and do like a zigzag kind of pattern right here to fill this little part in. I'm going to leave some of the graphite. You can kind of see the gray here, the graphite gray. I'm not going to erase that right there because I kind of like that little variety. Some of this you could erase, and I'll kind of show you if you're wanting, you know, it to look a little bit cleaner. If you want it to have a little bit more contrast between the black and the white, you can see how that really cleaned that part up. But if you're wanting more of a range of value, you could leave a little bit of the gray of the graphite. It just depends on, you know, what you guys want to do there. So I'm moving over to this little section, and you can see on this, on the radial balance, I added a lot of different things on here, just simply for the value. So I've got zigzag lines. I also have these lines that I stuck right here. You kind of see that. And then these, it kind of looks like curly hair. I ended up using this for that. So there's, you know, several different things that you guys could do to make this really interesting. I'm gonna just clean that up right here. I don't know, I may end up leaving this blank. That's the main thing to know, you know, when you guys are working on this, is to make sure that you're fully going over everything with your pencil before you start with your ink. I would really finish the entire thing and then go back, just kind of reassess what you have. So I'm going to finish out this little curly thing. I'm just making little circles over and over. It's kind of like scribble scrabble, I guess. Scribble scrabble for old people. So let's see. This, I may end up, I've got little dashes. You can kind of see my dash lines on this, so I may end up with that, adding just some little dashes right there to fill that in. Oh, no wonder that's an 03. I was like, why are my lines so dark? Main thing to know with the tip of this, you don't want to slam it down because it's going to end up bending your tip. So be pretty gentle with this. This pen does last quite a long time, you know, if you treat it right, obviously. And make sure you put your top back on it after you use it, because it does tend to dry out overnight if you don't. Okay, so the next little thing that we have here, we have the fast rhythm. And one thing that I did want to do with this, I had used my 01 right here, the small tip. I was going to go into this one with just the 03, which is the second to the largest. And I may do a little bit with the 05. So I've gotten into the center part and I've worked on it to make it darker right there. I'm going to go into it with the 05. And right here I'm just making up and down kind of hatching marks as I go. If there's any other area of emphasis, like for instance, right here, I could go into it and possibly deepen that little part, just where it starts right there with the 05, and then blend out what I'm doing just a little bit with either the 03 or the 01 right there. And I'm just making hatching type strokes right there. So, you know, when you think you're done with each little section, stand up, look at it from a distance, and make sure you're good to go with that. We're going to move over. Let's see here. To this little section, that slow rhythm. There really isn't much that I need to do with this. This is probably going to be the section where you're not going to have as much information. Let's see, what do I want to do right here? I guess I'm going to just do up and down lines with this because I want a light line. I'm holding my pen more at a 45-degree angle while I'm making my lines. I'm trying not to be so aggressive on this section just simply because it's supposed to be a slow rhythm. I do have a bold area. This is my focal point. I can, like with this, you know, if I wanted a little bit more depth, I can go into it like in my corner and maybe create, you know, a little dark area, just a little variation there. I could create a little variation right here. It's good to have, even if something is simple, it's good to have a little bit of depth or a lot of depth, depending on what you're trying to do to your work. That's cross-hatched right there. You can kind of see that. Okay, I'm going to move over here. This looks pretty good. These right here, I just went kind of diagonal with that. This was kind of interesting. I did a bunch of zigzags right here with this one to fill this in. I would finish this out by just making little stripes going that way. I would probably, on this one, just to create a little bit more contrast, I would probably fill in some of these little areas more like a darker tone, and this is with an 05 right here. So just go through and ask yourself about the depth of what you're doing. This is the next one for the Unity. You can see I did a lot of different textures there. I did that almost looks like I'm scribbling right here, and I did my hatching lines. I also did a little bit of pointillism right there. This next one right here that I'm working on, I hadn't decided. I may actually leave this gray right here, but I've got to go back into this thing and add a little bit more contrast. I may stick a little bit of lines in with my gray right here. And this last one, I'm getting there. I think I'm going to end up adding either some lines here or adding more emphasis to these lines here. But I know I've got to continue on with this to finish this out, because as y'all probably know, this needs to be at least 80% covered in my pen and ink. So I've got to continue on with whatever I've drawn to do that. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of your graphite in your background behind some of your lines, but you definitely don't want that graphite to be the dominant part of your work there. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to you guys. If y'all have any questions or anything like that that I can answer for y'all, please ask, and I'd be happy to help y'all out.